the year of our Lord Beyonce, 2012 saw the release of Monster High Escape from Skull Shores, 46-minute CGI animated film produced by Mattel Entertainment and Nerds Corp Entertainment. It was directed by Steve Ball and Andrew Duncan and aired on Nickelodeon. Producers include Tina Chow, Maria Elena Rodriguez, and Ira Singerman. Written by Mike Montesano and Ted Zizik. Grace Montgomery from Common Sense Media, a website dedicated to advising parents, gave the film a 3 out of 5 and an age rating of 7 and up. It goes on to describe how the film has a strong message about tolerance, but it's partially undermined by the over-the-top sexy outfits and makeup sported by the female characters, who are otherwise pretty decent role models. Enyos M. Duarte of High Def Digest, on the other hand, also gave it a 3 out of 5, but described the made-for-TV film as follows. Either I'm growing delusional with age, or I'm already worn out by the lineup of summer blockbusters, but this TV special for the Monster High fashion doll franchise had me surprisingly engaged for the entire 45-minute runtime. Perhaps after watching a couple of these animated shorts, I'm finally coming around to them, accepting them for what they are, and simply enjoying them as the easy children's entertainment they're meant as. I'll even admit that seeing cartoon characters inspired by horror cinema icons is rather adorable and at first glance, quite appealing. But it isn't until now that I find myself appreciating the concept and the various clever ways writers infuse a range of winks and nods to the franchise's inspiration. That's the difference between someone who sees a surface level analysis versus someone seeing something for what it is and engaging with media on its terms. Thank you, Enyos, for that glowing review. The movie takes inspiration from the 1933 film King Kong as well as elements from Beauty and the Beast. The title is a play on the novel King Kong Escape from Skull Island, a novelization of the 2005 Universal film. With those fun facts out of the way, let's start the movie. We begin with Headless Headmistress Bloodgood galloping through the halls of Monster High on Nightmare, ushering past students who scarcely get out of the way in time. She pulls up to her office and announces over the PA system that school is out for spring break, which makes sense why this film was released in April. The bell rings and we get the introduction with Fright Song once again, with scenes from the film and shots of the main ghouls. The intro ends and we zoom out on a black and pink notebook that bears the title surrounded by beach items like sunglasses, a floaty, a coconut, and a tiny tiki figurine. We set the scene at a school carnival before spring break starts. Everyone is there playing games, going on rides, and getting prizes. Frankie is getting a portrait done as she talks with Gulia, Claudine, and Draculaura. They're excited for an upcoming trip. They mention that Laguna has a surprise waiting for Gil. Frankie asks if Spectra is coming, but she pops in and says she can't. She's going on a trip with her parents to see some of their old haunts. Not sure if she means that figuratively or literally.
What's that supposed to mean?
Claude comes over and gives Drac a prize he won, then says he's off to win more, showing us his adorable yet competitive nature. The ghouls go to look for Laguna and Gil, and we pan over to them. Gil shows off his bias against sea creatures when a giant cephalopod is seen spinning students around on a ride. This is one of the first instances of character regression we get in the films. As him and Laguna go to take a picture and a face cutout, she tells him that she wants him to meet her parents this spring break when they will go to the Great Barrier Reef. He is not enthusiastic about the prospect.
Meet your parents?
Also, fun fact, this photo is a reference to the painting American Gothic. Cut to Deuce killing it at one of the carnival games and winning Cleo a prize, but when she sees how many Draculaura has, she gets competitive and drags Deuce along to get more. Then we see Manny and some nerd coming out of a maze. Manny comments that he felt he could get lost in there, a clear reference to the Minotaur in the labyrinth. Then, when he insults a wax statue of a normie, Frankie makes him apologize to it, which just feels so performative. Like really, Frankie, what community outreach, mutual aid organizations, or even protests are you attending to help with monster-normie relations? Anyway, as we see that Claude has won Draculaura even more prizes, filling up her car, Cleo is very upset at this, and can I just say Cleo is consistently the funniest character? Operetta congratulates the ghouls on their trip, but says she can't go because she's going to a music festival, and Claude and Deuce can't go because they're going to an extreme sports camp. When Deuce asks if Gil is excited, he gives an half-hearted answer. Even though Laguna keeps assuring him that her parents will like him, regardless of his being a freshwater monster, he doesn't believe her. I'd have an easier time understanding Gil if he wasn't so consistently pessimistic at the prospect, even though the Fright On special had him not caring that him and Laguna were from different worlds. I can understand nervous, but he's straight up not even listening to his own girlfriend. The ghouls wander through the catacombs to get to the docks to be picked up and take a boat to Australia. Clawstralia? Do we have a confirmed name for the country in Monster High? When Laguna tries telling Gil how awesome the Great Barrier Reef is, he goes on to say that he'd like it if not for the sea creatures. Which, like, whoa, that is a very out of pocket statement to make to your sea creature girlfriend. But Laguna is right, he is sounding a lot like his folks again, even though he claims to not support their views. Oh, but the ocean is scary. Oh boy, now we're saying certain places and people are inherently scary. Anyway, the boat is then attacked by a kraken and the ghouls are left floating on a raft. Gil takes this moment to make a comment towards Laguna.
What was that you were saying about the sea? Perfectly safe?
Next, we see our antagonist, Bartleby Farnham, and his assistant Kipling. Farnham is a reference to P.T. Barnum, a very controversial figure. Farnham is looking for a particular map, hoping to sell false goods. Kipling tells him they already sold everything, and Farnham says they're broke. That's when they hear the ghouls calling for help, and once he sees that they're monsters, he's hopeful he can make a quick buck off them. He decides to rescue them. Cleo asks him what he does, and he goes on a long spiel about how he is a jack of all trades, and most importantly, he's an entertainer. When his eyes is laid on Frankie, he seems taken aback by her appearance for some reason. Farnham then heads into his cabin to look for a film roll. As he examines it, he exclaims that it's a spitting image. Frankie and some mystery woman look very alike. He plans to use Frankie to trap some creature that he's never been able to capture before. He then takes them on a detour to an island he calls Skull Shores for obvious reasons. The volcanic activity on the island suggests the island is somewhere along the Ring of Fire, most likely in the Western Pacific, somewhere among the Polynesian islands. I like how the ghouls didn't question where he was taking them, just assuming he was taking them towards civilization, all except for Laguna, our central character for this movie. Now, when we are introduced to the Tiki people, it's clear they're analogous to real-world indigenous islanders. My question is, how offensive is this? Because there's no way this isn't, right? Or is it actually a commentary on the way outsiders and colonizers will enforce their rule over indigenous peoples? Let me know your thoughts. Anyway, one of the ghouls is chosen as the guest of honor. Of course, it's Frankie. Who else would it be? She is given the royal treatment by the Tiki, and they carry her off to a luxury suite somewhere. The other ghouls are shown their lodging areas. Some nice looking huts. Cleo is appalled at the proposition, but the Tiki tell her they have a special place for her, and she is shown an even worse place to stay. When she reconnects with the other ghouls, she tells them she doesn't want to talk about it. When Laguna brings up how the statues on the island look familiar, Claudine agrees. When Frankie comes up talking about how awesome her jungle suite is, they realize that the statues look like her. With Gulia and Abby, they're making snow cones for the Tiki, which have the unintended side effect of freezing them. Farnham is going over schematics with Kipling and the Tiki. Frustrated, he yells at the Tiki and assaults them, demanding they start over. The ghouls come up to him and ask why the statues all look like Frankie. Cleo asks why they're treating her the way Cleo should be treated. Farnham promises all will be answered tonight at a party he's hosting in Frankie's honor. Cleo is appalled again, and Laguna brings up that they need to get going to her parents' place. Farnham guilts her into changing her mind, as to not ruin the party for everyone, especially the Tiki. She agrees and asks if she can look at the maps on his ship, just to know how far they are from her home. He makes up an excuse, and she walks off. Farnham tells Kipling to keep an eye on the ghouls. We next get a scene of the ghouls and Gil on the beach. Claudine, Frankie, and the Tiki are playing volleyball when the Tiki crash into the sandcastle that Cleo is building, destroying it. The Tiki just shrugs and mutters incoherently. Gulia is snapping pics of it all, chilling next to Abby, pun intended. When the volleyball rolls into Kipling, Frankie tries to cheer him up and reminds him they're all monsters, but he won't hear it. Laguna and Gil are walking through the jungle. Laguna is suspicious of Farnham, but Gil just doesn't want to leave, head buried in the sand. Laguna says he's just afraid of meeting her parents, and Gil doesn't disagree, saying her parents won't like him. She retorts her parents are modern monsters, and that's not how they feel. Back with the ghouls, Draculaura is giving a Tiki a makeover when Cleo comes up to her and Claudine, complaining some more. This time, it's about how they made her cook and clean. Meanwhile, they gave jobs like decorating to Claudine. The ghouls laugh at her misfortune. With Farnham, he's berating the Tiki, thinking they're actually starting to like the monsters. They assure him that they're not, obviously scared, and he says they're going to capture the Beast of Skull Shores that night before they take a rowboat back to shore. While they're gone, Laguna and Gil swim to his ship. with Gil making an unnecessary comment about how he doesn't want to be in the ocean any longer than he has to be. Like, bro, that's where your girlfriend comes from. Then they break into Farnham's cabin. Meanwhile, as the day ends, the other ghouls are treated to a feast, with Draculaura making the same comment about the salad bar as in why do ghouls fall in love. This isn't relevant to the plot, I just found it weird.
Check it out. I know. The salad bar is off the bank.
Farnham wonders where Laguna and Gil are at and orders Kipling to find them. Aboard his ship, Laguna finds a notebook on the island, and inside it appears to be about something on the island. When Kipling comes looking for them, they hide, and when he doesn't find them, he takes a boat back to shore. Inside the cabin, Laguna finds a reel about the Beast of Skull Shores and plays it. She's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. They notice that the normie scientist in the footage looks a lot like Frankie, who at the same time is being made the center of attention. Farnham does some theatrics and tells the ghouls the tale of the beast, who stalks the island, how it terrorized the native inhabitants, and no one could soothe the savage beast except for one person, that normie lady. Farnham plans to use Frankie to tame the beast that he's trying to lure out into the open. Weird note, but it shows the normie in the same chair as Frankie when she approached by the monster. That, combined with the way he recognized Frankie immediately, means he was the one who came with the normie to the island, probably under the false pretenses as well. Anyway, the ghouls aren't cool with how weird the vibes are getting, but Farnham lies to reassure them. Laguna and Gil are running as fast as they can to get to them. That's when the beast arrives, in all his purple glory. Frankie charms him, with her personality, of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, and he tries to take off with her in hand, but he's stopped by Farnham and the Tiki trying to restrain him. The ghouls try to spring into action, but are prevented by more Tiki. Ghoulie and Abby fall into a pit trap. The beast breaks free and makes to leave, but when the Tiki spears almost hit Frankie, he attacks them before wandering into the jungle.
No, I mean, I can't believe it took her over me.
As Farnham chases the monster, the beast jumps a huge gorge, causing Frankie to faint out of fear. Frankie wakes up aboard a ship in a tree and gets startled by a purple monster. She says they need to flee from the beast, but he confesses that he is the beast. His name is Andy. Then the camera zooms in on Frankie's shell necklace that is glowing. Farnham is tracking her through it as him and the Tiki push through the jungle. We cut to the ghouls also tracking Frankie. Abby and Ghoulie are still in the pit, held prisoner by the Tiki, when Abby gets an idea. Andy is showing Frankie around, telling her his tragic backstory about being the only monster among a community of normies, how their intolerance fueled him, becoming this perceived beast that they presume him to be. Very on the nose with the message, but it is a children's movie. He goes on about how his parents sent him away from it all, but he got shipwrecked and landed on the island where the Tiki restarted the cycle of fear. That means there are parents out there that have no idea where their child went and are probably worried sick about him. It also means that Andy was the sole survivor of that ship, which is pretty grim. While spying on Farnham in the jungle, Laguna offers a plan to directly confront him, but while Gil is trying to talk to her down, she falls down the hill and lands at Kipling's feet. Farnham orders him to capture her, and he does. When Laguna calls for help, Gil just turns and runs off into the jungle. Meanwhile, Frankie and Andy are having a picnic in the skull-shaped formation guarding the entrance to the island. Frankie tells Andy he could come back and go to Monster High. Back with Laguna, Farnham taunts her for how Gil ran off on her. Her and Kipling then get to chatting, with Laguna trying to teach Kipling figuratively and literally. But Kipling pulls back, saying Farnham told him no one would like him without his mask. Laguna tells him they're all monsters, and nobody's perfect. With Andy and Frankie, they're talking and walking when they come up on more statues, and Frankie wonders aloud why they're here. Andy is embarrassed to admit he made them, but Frankie tells him how she gets embarrassed all the time, telling him the time her foot flew off at cheerleading practice. Continuity, you love to see it. He goes on to explain that the statue is of the girl who came to the island. She came with scientists who wanted to capture him. He found a bond with her that soothed the ravenous beast within him. All this because Frankie got a bob. With Abby and Ghoulia, they enact their prison escape plan, freezing the Tiki and climbing out of the pit. They go to look for the others, but before they do, Abby unfreezes the Tiki and they fall into the pit. She then gives an empowering speech to the Tiki, and they feel emboldened to rise up against Farnham and help the ghouls. Also, I love how beautiful Abby and Ghoulia look in this one shot. At the same time, the two search parties are close to finding Frankie. Thankfully, the ghouls find Frankie first, with Frankie giving a short summary of what happened and introducing Andy. When they hear Farnham approaching, Frankie tells Andy to run. The Tiki quickly surround them with spears in hand, but then Abby and Gulia enter the fray and the Tiki quickly turn on Farnham. Using his quick thinking, he uses a magnetic device to draw Frankie to him as a hostage. That's when Andy goes beast mode and draws everyone's attention. When Farnham threatens Frankie, Andy quickly gives in to his demands. When he changes back, Farnham realizes that's why he could never find the monster. Everyone then makes their way back to the beach. There, as he is about to board the rowboat with Andy and some Tiki, Gil pops out of the water. He's brought reinforcements in the form of some dolphins and the Kraken from earlier.
My friends go. Ha! You in what army? A saltwater army.
The Kraken throws Farnham, who shouldn't survive that throw, and Kipling chases after his boss. The Kraken sinks Farnham's boat, revealing their ship fully repaired. As they sail off, Gil tells Laguna she was right and that it was time he faced his fears. Laguna is surprised and impressed. Cut to Farnham spying on them through a spyglass. Frankie still has the tracking device, which he can follow right to Andy and to Monster High. Back at Monster High, the ghouls are sharing how their spring break plans went. Frankie tells Andy there's no reason to be nervous, that no one will be scared of him because they're all monsters at Monster High. The ghouls agree and they get updates on their phone from Spectre's gossip column about how everyone loves a new kid. Then there's a bit of culture shock moment because he's been gone for so long, he doesn't know what cell phones are. Then he rips one of the announcement speakers out of the wall, making some of the students laugh. Then we get a short montage of Andy adjusting to modern society. You know how it goes. Then Miss Bloodgood calls for an assembly to welcome back the students and show a presentation on tolerance by what's obviously Farnham in a terrible fake beard. As he gives his presentation, the students become agitated by the BS he's spewing. Even Miss Bloodgood calls him out on it.
You a magnificent specimen. Specimen? Who is this dude?
Then, he singles out Andy and tries riling him up. When Andy shoves Farnham and his beard falls off, the students spring into action. But he incapacitates the wolf siblings with the dog whistle, uses a mirror on Deuce, and a bright flash of light on the vampires to stun them. Then, he continues to egg on Andy, taunting him with his cruel words, and it's enough to turn the boy into a beast. Andy goes berserk, destroying the auditorium. Frankie calls out to him, and he grabs her and begins climbing the school tower with her in his huge hand, which is a direct reference to the King Kong, where the ape carries a woman up the Empire State Building. There, Farnham continues to feed into Andy's fear, until eventually he gives in.
Face it, you are all freaks, all of you, and you will never be anything else!
He's about to go off with Farnham as Frankie begs him not to go. Andy says that Farnham is right, but Frankie says no, he isn't. No one deserves to be gawked at or judged. He goes on about how everyone has issues and they can work on them together. Farnham has had enough and tells Kipling to come with him, but Kipling has also had enough and stands up for himself. He won't back down this time and grabs Farnham, hauls him into the air, and throws him into the tar pit from the carnival that I guess no one got around to cleaning up. Then everyone laughs. As he runs off saying he's a freak, Farnham is captured by some guys in uniforms. I'm guessing he called them to help with Andy, somehow, for some reason. You'd think he would call the press? Everyone calls Kipling brave for assaulting that guy, while some elephant ear girls, wondering who he is, makes him blush. Then Miss Bloodgood comes out to announce that the school will be closed for repairs, extending spring break for everyone. Abby gets the idea for everyone to party on Skull Shores. Even Cleo gets a happy ending, getting the royal treatment she always wanted. The movie ends on a shot of everyone at the party and one of the statues on the island. So my final thoughts. Let's talk outfits first, because this time we got the ghouls in their Skull Shore swimsuits, including Gil. Of the 8, I'd have to say my favorite is Abby. It's just the big sun hat with the wraparound skirt just looks so cute on her, and she wears it so well. My least favorite would have to be Frankie's because it just seems so safe and kind of boring, especially compared to the others. Honorable mention to Gulia, who looks so soft and elegant, not as regal as Abby, more like a softly wilting flower. Prettiest hair goes to Cleo though, she's just rocking the shit out of that bob. The film was fun. I had a blast following the ghouls on this almost nonsensical adventure. I wasn't a fan of the B plot with Laguna and Gil, but the C plot following Abby and Gulia was adorable and given the perfect amount of screen time. Overall, I gave it a 7 out of 10. We didn't really meet any new ghouls this time around if I think about it, just Andy. I guess they just started taking time to introduce new characters in the next film. Speaking of, join me next time when I recap Ghouls Rule, one of the most iconic of the films in my opinion. Can't believe it took them so long to make a Halloween movie, considering they are monsters after all. See you all in the next one. Don't forget to leave a like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe if you haven't yet. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!
Bye!